You know what? In the last video, I said things about display flex and flexbox and stuff like that, and css-grid, and how we can use them differently in CSS. Well, I want to show you the case actually. I'll just go into VS Code. Of course, that is not going into VS Code, but it's telling us that we will go there. So I'll go in here, and I've gone ahead and just create lecture code. That's it. Nothing inside here, and this index is just empty, except that there's like a body that's empty, but it's not. It's a text. Your text. There's a connection to this styled file that's in here. So that's all. Let's go ahead and create a case then. So we can start by giving ourselves a class called flexbox. Perfect. This is one. And then we give us another one, which is called css-grid. I think that will be a good start. So we're gonna do this using flexbox and then css-grid. In flexbox, I need to think like I did in the PowerPoint view up here. I need to think like this. We need to first have one large purple block, and then we need this gray block. For it to span like this, with we have one of the columns spanning 2 rows. You can see there's actually 4 columns and 2 rows. So this one is spanning 2 of those rows. For that to happen, you have to think differently when using flexbox than using CSS. So there's a hindrance in here. I have to actually use extra things. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to start by just typing that. I'm going to give the class of item. And then I'm going to go ahead and copy that. These are the first 2, the purple block and the gray block. The purple block, I believe we called it something like col9. I'm not going to do that because there's actually not going to be any text showing in this one, in the col9. But I'll go ahead and call this one col3 because that's what it was called. And please disregard that I use divs in this one. It's just for showing. There's nothing semantic in here. So right now we're just showing flexbox versus css-grid and how they differ. Sometimes you need extra HTML that you might not want when you're using flexbox. And that's what I'm going to show here. So I'm typing col, and there's like a col3 up there. Don't worry, we don't need to be zoomed in to 500% to see it. In a short while, I'll get the code to, increase this font size. The first one, which is col9, we'll give it some extra because we had. Well, what do we have? We have like 3 columns of 4. We actually have. Please. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 columns of 4 and then 1 of 8. Okay. So we'll go ahead and call this one then class. This is also an item, even though it's an inside of this one. So it's called class, and we could call this one call 4. And we'll do 4 of them. And then there's one that's called 8. So that should be all of that. I think we could do the same. Actually, I could just copy this code right over to css-grid. And now we have a redundant div there. Now see the difference in HTML and CSS here, that we can see that there's we have the css-grid and all of them are just directly below in here. We don't need an extra nesting. But in this one, we need this to make this work. So already here we can see that we have different structures. This could matter a lot when we're working with semantics. Right now we don't. So let's go ahead and make some ground rules. Usually I just start by resetting, and resetting that means I'm going to take away different properties that would annoy me, that are already default in the browser. So for once I'm going to change the box sizing which I know you know about because it was during the last week in that lecture. And I'm going to change that to border box, even suggesting that. That's such a common thing to do. And I'm going to reduce margin. Of course, I'm going to go with 0 with this one, and I'm going to go with padding as well. It already knows that as well, so it helps me. Right now, we don't really have to care about what happened. You can check it. It usually body has a padding, so everything goes out to the very, very outer side of the line. That's what's going on there. And then let's go ahead and use open up with body. I want to tell you something though. You usually will see a lot of things like this going on. This is very common, and it's usually when you're using something called pseudo elements, which is a common feature you use a lot in CSS. Not at this early stage, but you use it later, and it is just to make this statement true for all of that. So it basically does the same thing. It just also take care about when I use pseudo elements. So I'm going to do that right now. It has no influence whatsoever on this example, but I just did it to show you that this can be seen outside. And when you wonder why I didn't do it, now you know that there's something to do with pseudo elements at least. So go ahead and type body, because that's the next thing we'll do. We'll go into body, and we're not talking about everything now. We're going inside of body, and let's go ahead and give it, yeah, that's good. And then we can go ahead and give it some kind of font size. See the font size. I don't know, 2.5 rem. Yeah, I think you'll see that. At least it's about the same size as this one. I think you see it. And then we go ahead and go type with, nope. I'm using a virtual selector, so I'm going inside the body. I'm using nested CSS, of course, as everything is typed inside. Now, the first thing I want to do is actually to give everything a border. Everything inside the body should have a border. I can see it, where it starts and where it ends. So let's go ahead and border, and I'm going to make it black. It doesn't matter which order I put this in, but sometimes I put it in another order, but this is what I'm doing. Okay, so a lot of borders popped up. That's helpful. I can see how large these are. And then for later purposes, I want the text to be placed very central. So I'm going to place it central. It has no meaning to whatsoever right now, because none of these are flexbox or css-grid things. And this only works with when we have flexbox and css-grid active. So nothing changes. And text align center, that should change a lot. That's going to, gonna put it right in the middle there. Perfect. Now let's go ahead with the next one, which is I'm going to take, the two boxes that we have, these two. If I want to just compress them, collapse them like this, flexbox and css-grid. I don't want them to take up the whole space. We don't need that. I want them to just take a bit smaller space over here. So let's go ahead and do that. It's not a common practice or something like that. It has nothing to do with it. Just for this test's sake, I want to show you things so you can make sense of them. You can actually see what's going on here. So first off, I'm gonna use a good width, and there's different ways to do this. It could say 60% of viewport width, but there's actually a new unit which is called DVW. So I'm gonna go ahead and just explain a couple of differences. But first off, you could have done this 60%. 60% of what it is actually 60% of its parents' width. In this case, parents' width is the body, so there's not much difference between this one and viewport width. Should be sometimes, especially if I have a scroll bar, it might count this as well. I can actually test this out, I think. Let's go ahead and zoom in on it. So I get this scroll bar. See, there's actually a scroll bar on here, so I can scroll it. And then I save. And then let's go ahead and see if it actually changes slightly when I, yep, you see it jumped. Because it's actually, when I use 60%, it takes calculating of the body's width and excluding the scroll bar. But when I use viewport width, it includes the scroll bar. So that's part of the viewport. Viewport being the browser size, view browser window size. Okay, that's cool and all. It doesn't really matter in this case, but in most cases it really matters because you're not always going to have something that's just nested inside the body. It's going to be nested inside of something very deep inside the body. And at that point, if you use 60%, it might not be 60% of the screen if you want it to be so. So having these two different values of percent of your parent or percent of the screen, it's really important. Now there's also something extra going on here. There's something new called device viewport width. It really thinks about the kind of device you're using. You're using iPhone, you're using Samsung, you're using different things. And there's going to be different kind of styles and interfaces that they have to work with. And this actually adapts so it works better with these kind of interfaces. And it's kind of new features as well. So I kind of want you to use it. You don't have to use it a lot, but it is a very useful thing when you should use it. I don't know why I did that. I should have zoomed out here. So there you go. So we got that. We got 60%. Now I want it centered in the middle. So let's go ahead and do that. Margin inline. Logical properties. They're actually going to help us a lot. You should read up what's the difference between margin inline start and margin left. For example, these are the two same things, but there are some things that are very different between the two. Why do we have the same property doing two different properties doing the same thing? They're actually not doing the exact same things. Visually, yes, but they are also taking into consideration the reading direction, which is really important. And then we have margin top. Or if I want to, I could also go ahead and not use margin top. I could type in like margin block and then go ahead, type start. And then I'm going to type 10 rem. Why do this? I want this one to be pushed down from the top, and I want this one to be pushed away from the one above it. So you can actually see that they are two different things. The first one, it's the flexbox. And the second one is a css-grid. You can also really see that there's like some difference going on with the borders, but it's totally logical because these have many more items inside of them because we needed to nest. See? And this one didn't need to nest as much. So these two nested items inside, they get borders. And then these one add to them. So we had like a double border thing going on here. So that's good and all. We got body going for us. We got all of that. Should we throw in some colors, I think? So we can identify which is what here. The next thing I'll do then, I'll go ahead and create a flexbox. So this is where I'll go ahead and do all the flexbox thingies. And then I'm going to do the same thing for css-grid. So this is like the basis for that. Let's go ahead and give it some kind of color. Let's go with background color of, I don't know, F9, D1 maybe. Yeah, of course. Need to put these in. So I gave them the same color here. These are going to be same. I'll start with just telling them both are going to be, so we can see the outer side. We want to color the same things. Now, this one has a few more things going on with it, the flexbox, because we have the nesting. So I'm going to go ahead and start doing that. I'm gonna first off tell this one let's display flex. And if you wonder that this is all you'll get about how to work with css-grid and flexbox, it's not. You better see the lesson. The lesson is really about this, and it goes deeper into it, much deeper. So you should see that before despairing. Now you see there's things going on here. As I said, in the lesson I'll explain more about this, but right now I'll go ahead and just show you stuff that can differ. I'm telling these things that they can wrap right now, so whatever size things are, they are allowed to take up different rows if they need to. Right now they don't need to, so these two are going to take the same. Perfect. Let's go ahead and I don't know that this one needs to wrap yet. Well, let's go ahead and see if it needs. I don't think so. The first thing we need to notify now is that we get an extra level. Like I said, there was like something extra going on here. I need to target these two, which I don't in css-grid. So to catch up, I'll actually have to start with flexbox level. And of course, I'm going to do this in the nesting style manner, which is saying directly inside and then take item. So I'm using some kind of combinator right here. It's not that I always use these, kind of uncommon. I mostly use classes, just only classes. But for now, I think it's a good practice that I show you the diversity of all the things you can do. So we go in here, and I'm going to want to select, the first group here. This one. It's called item. This one is called item. So how do I use this first group? There's actually something called first child. I'm going to use that. I'm going to say item, which is, I want to select all of the items. But in that, I want to go ahead, and when I use these things, this is called pseudo classes. When I use these pseudo classes, not pseudo elements, pseudo classes, I actually I cannot just type it without this one. Because if I were to type it just on a no nesting style that I wouldn't, add to it later, I could have just typed it like this, first child, and it would have worked. But since I'm going to use item for more things, I'm going to do so for last child, which is the column 3 over here. Later, I'm going to need to. I want to not have to write this one again. So how do I actually, nest things like that? Nest whenever I use pseudo classes. I use the ampersand. Yes. And I go first child. And then now I can open up by saying something cool. I better give it a new color. So background color. I don't want to go crazy. I want you to be able to see the text. So maybe some kind of switch over to this one. What? I don't know. I didn't hit that one. B8 or something like that. That's the first child. Did I do something wrong? Item first child. Yeah, of course. Like I always do. I forget this one. You can see there you have them. That's the first child. And let's go ahead and take the last child as well, so we can do that. I'll do that by adding some other color. And now I'm not going to forget that hashtag in the beginning. I actually didn't need to forget it this time because it was already typed out for me when I copied it. So no kudos to me. Okay. Yeah, of course. And then I forget something else. I want to have the last child, this one. So I got the first one and I got the last one. Perfect. That's lovely. And then I want something else. Well, the first child, it should be, I don't like this color here. I'm going to save it for later. I want to save it for later. Sorry. I'll just add a comment down here and type it in here. I like it color, but I'm not going to use that right now. I think I'll use something else. Something more similar. So FBBB6. There you go. Yeah, they are more similar to one another. So I had the first child with the last child, which is kind of freaky. We actually selected this one and gave it a background, and we selected this one. This is the first child, and this is the last child. And how do we know that? They are also direct items. So this is directly inside of Flexbox. The only things that are directly inside of Flexbox is these two. These are not directly inside, they are nested further inside. So these are directly inside. And then go into that and select the first of those directly inside. Okay, so we have this one, this is the first one, this is the last one. Perfect. That's what we've done here. So we should give them sizes. If we go back to PowerPoint, see that this one, okay, there's a 3/4 and this is like 1/4. And anyone who knows math, we can already say what that is. First child should be about the width of 75%, right? 3/4. And if that is difficult for you, I think you should go back to seeing basic math, because really 3/4 is 25% every day, always. This is 25%. Not that you need to feel stupid about it, but it's really something that shouldn't stress you too much, because it's part of core math. Okay. So we got this that going on for us. We have these two columns. This one looks really freaky because it's not correct, but the other one looks kind of good. Something else then. Maybe we should go ahead and take the next level then to, give these colors as well. So let's do that. I'm going down to css-grid, and I'll leave this comment because I love that color, but not right now. I'm going to say something like display grid. And this one is strange because in the grid, we really don't give sizes to the items inside, like this. We usually give them a frame, and then it's more like we give them a grid, and then that grid that we give them, we can then take the items and say how many parts of that grid will this one take up. So I think you'll understand what I'm talking about shortly. So first we can go with grid template columns. It's saying how many columns do we have, and remember I said we had 4. You can trust me. We can go back here and say 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. So we can go ahead and type 4 there. So yeah, this one. There you go. And the way you do this is actually, this is so, it's so important that you get it, but it's still like, there are so many other levels to this. If I want 4 columns, I could do this. But I mean, if I wanted 12 columns, I would do something different, right? This is really the stupidest way to do it, because if you have the same size of everything, there's something so much easier to do. We can go repeat, and then you say how many times. I want 4 times. And what do I want to repeat 4 times? I want to repeat 1FR 4 times. So this is basically the same thing. I've given it 4 columns, and each column is the same size. So it's such a much better way to do it. And there you go. It actually tells me to use grid template rows, repeat 3, 1FR. But are there 3 rows? Now there are 2. So I'm going to take 2. And I think that's about it. We actually now have something that it's ending here in the same place, you see? Here between these 2 columns. And we don't have any colors on them. So let's go ahead and give them colors. Now, things are going to be quite different here. We don't have to say the direct item because so it's just direct item down here. It's just not smart enough to understand that we don't need that. So we could go ahead and just say item with items inside of css-grid. So not any item, it's the items inside of css-grid. And now we could say, as we really want, we want to color the three, call 3, because, and we want to color the call 6. So we want to color a lot of different things here. I guess that we need to do this. I think for a change, we're not going to get the same colors, you know. I understand that now. I think I was going ahead a bit quicker because this one is never doesn't exist, you know. This whole thing up here, the nesting that goes up here, does not exist in the case of css-grid because we don't need it. This very wrapper is not used. So we're not going to get this orange color over here, but we are going to get this call 3 thing. And how do we get that? First off, we have to understand that most of our colors are different. This one, call 3, is the same as up here the last time. So we need to select the last one. We could do this in different ways, but since I want you to show different ways to do it. In this case, I could have said last child, you know, like I did before. And I can show you that it works. Just gonna take this one, go add it in here. I'm not gonna use with that. I'm just gonna do last child. You see, call 3 gets this nice pink color. Now I don't want to do that. Like I said, I want to do something different. I want to tell you that we can also go child, and then we say the number. In this case, it is the number 6. The number 6 is the row. It's really, this is a bit more strict because we always get a last child. That's something that's always true, but we don't always know the amount of elements that are going to be present in whatever structure we build. So saying that the number 6 should always be there, that we depend on it, it really makes everything rigid and not easy to work with. You'll see this later on in the course when you work with a project. This is not a good idea. But for this case, I want you to be introduced, like I said, to many new concepts and how to work with things. So let's go ahead and type 6 there. And while we're at it, let's give us a 5 as well, because the 5, I think we can actually use this one. I think we're going to, we're going to use this color for the 5. Because that's the 8, right? We'll do that shortly up here as well. I can actually remove this now because we have it somewhere. And so I want that on the 8 up here as well later. Now we get the colors, and then we can add an extra color for all the other things. So basically everything else. Let's go ahead and do that. We'll create a background column. And we give that, I don't know, maybe like something very close to that green one, because if we do have something really close to that green one, I think we get a good, they kind of work together a bit, you know, popping to the eyes, but it can be easily be read. I think I'll go with that setup. Good. So how do we get these to, you know, the 3 to be over there and take more than one row? Okay, I can do that. But you really have to think about these. There's like 4 columns and 2 rows. between each column and row, there's a line. And you can actually imagine this line. You can see here, it starts with 1 line, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 lines. So whatever we do, we could do this many ways. Of course, there are other ways to do this. But one way we could do this is to actually go over here and say, well, we have 1, 2, 3 lines if you go rows, and 5 lines if you go columns. And I want our column 3 to go from the first line to the third line. And I want the column 3 to go, when you talk about the columns, go from the 4th line to the 5th line. So with that knowledge in other hand, you can go to this one and go grid column. And I will say, I want you to start at 4 and then go to 5. Okay, it jumps over there, it does that. Now, it kind of knew that I want, okay, that's funny. Grid row 1 to 3. So I want you to start on line 1 and, end on line 3. So I'll do that. And whoop, you see, it pops up there. Now, this procedure is not much different from how you do it on the column 8. So if I want something similar to happen with column 8, this would not be a good idea because they're going to take up, they're going to just be, the 8 is there, it's just behind. So I can even show you that if I kind of, I don't know, reduce the opacity of this one. Yeah, you can see it. Maybe I can go, and then it's not really visible. Maybe I can go opacity. And I go 0.5, so we get double each. No, it's really, really hard to show. You can actually see it just shining through behind there, but what's happening is that we get a mixing of colors instead. That's what you see. But I assure you, the 8 is over there. Now we don't want that. We don't want it at all. We want it to be going from the second row to the third row. So it's on the bottom over here. And then we want it to be going from 1, 2, 3, 3 to 4, right? 3 to 4 when it comes to columns. So that's what we're going to do. And then, boop, there you go. No, we didn't want that. We wanted to go from 2 to 4, right? Yeah, that's right. That should be correct. If I go into PowerPoint and look at it, yeah, it spans 2 of those, while these are like separated. Yep, good. So that's the structure we had inside there. Yeah. I know you're saying it looks different. This is tighter and so on and so forth. I can go ahead and just give some padding to this, maybe 1 rem. And you'll see that there's like, yeah, it's not the same, but you see the pattern is very, very much the same. You have these 3 at the top here, and then this one spanning 2 rows, and this one. And it was kind of easy. I did all this. Okay. And you can see that this is applied to all elements, and then I extra applied this to just the 2 that I wanted to place in a specific place. And the other ones are just wrapping around. They're just saying, okay, these 2 are deciding where to go. We take the extra spaces. That's what's going to happen. Perfect. Now let's go ahead and look at the call 4 over there. We're just lagging behind on the flexbox schedule, it seems. For the first child, background color, we've done that. We have the width. Now, since you know that with these things are nested inside of this extra item over here, so there's no flexbox going on inside of this. We need to give this item some flexbox power. So let's do that. We go in here and we add this one, display flex. things should just stack up nicely on a row there. Yep, they do. And then we should go flex wrap because we need them to be able to be on different rows. I can tell you for sure, this is very important if you want things to be in different rows, because otherwise the default behavior is no wrap. They're not going to wrap into the new row. It made no difference whatsoever because now they're fit on one row. I can tell you shortly that I'm going to show you what happens when I remove this, but at a later stage when there's actually a need for it. So we have item, the first item. Inside of that, I'm going to go into the items inside of that first item. So we're going into this item right now, and I want to go to these. I want to, affect them somehow, give them sizes. So let's do that. How do I do that? I just continue going down the hill, following the stream, taking item up, and there we go. We tell that to be padding because we had it before. We can, we had a padding down there, so everything had like a size. So we need that as well on this one level. Yes, perfect. Now everything is, I don't know, everything is not. This one isn't. I can give this one padding as well. So it didn't look like it didn't have padding, but it had no padding. So right now these two both have padding. Now we need to go further inside, and we really want to think about the last child. The last child is this column 8, right? So let's go ahead and do that. We could go ahead and do this. This is going to be fun. I have an idea. I'm taking last child. I'm continuing the progress of going down. Last child is going to be this one, column 8. That's the only one who differs from the others. So I'm going to take this one. And I'm going to say last child, and I'm going to open up this box of color. Right, we need to give it a color. So take this one color from the col 8 down there and give it over here so we can recognize what we're talking about. It's this one up there. And then we need to give it some kind of width. And what kind of width would it have? Now, think about this. Let's go in here. The width is the width of the parent, if we're talking percentages. So if I'm looking at this one, col 8, the parent in the flexbox scenario we're in right now isn't the whole box. It is not. The parent is this purple box. So this one is saying I'm taking up 2/3, basically. That's what it does. It takes up 2/3. And this one is taking up 1/3. So 1/3, 2/3. And 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. To get it given together 100%. So dividing up to 1/3, if we do that, taking 100% divided by 3, what you will get is something like 33%. But if, in fact, like these percentages matter, so it's really 33.333333. Yeah. I'm not going to spend my time taking more threes there, but you understand there's like going to be a forever loop of threes behind. And usually when you type these things down, you should make a practice of taking 3, and then 5 of them. 5 of them, in my experience, has been enough. Making them less than 5 will make things misalign. It's not a good idea. It's never a good idea. Well, it is going to work in this case. I think, as I told you right in there, we had 2/3, which would be 66.666666. Okay, so let's go. And there we go. I have that size. And now we should see. I want to show you. If I remove this flex wrap that we had earlier, you can see, even though it needs 66%, it is not allowed to take it. Why? Because it's not allowed to wrap. Now, when we allow it to wrap, it will take up the new row because it needs 66% and there's not enough room for it. So what we need now is actually to take care of the rest of the items. And how do we do that? Well, we could do this in different ways, of course. First off, we should give them a color. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to take them. There you go. Maybe I should have done that first. We'll go with there or something. Yeah, here you go. And then there are different ways to do it. I'm going to, of course, take this and just go it. Like that. That's good. It could have been really weird of me also to say that I just want to do something crazy. I could have done this as well. Gone in here and said, well, not. I don't know why I would do that. Not last child, and then give it these measures. Maybe I should. Yeah, I do this. Take this, like that. I remove this. I've done something wrong. Why? What? Yeah, I get it. I've forgotten that not is a function, so it needs these two wrappers and parentheses around it, and then it works. So what this one is, this is really saying I'm going to select everything that is not a lost child. So you can see this could be useful. In this case, it really is not that useful because it's much easier to say everything should be this and then overwrite that for using this. So I'm actually, if I don't have this, this is going to be applied to everything. But since this one has a high specificity and you need to know about specificity, read up on it. There is part of the course literature. This is going to trump the thing I wrote above. There you go. Well, do they look similar? They do. Do they look like this example that I pledged to show you? Yep, they do. Of course, these have, this thing is going on. There's like a border radius of the borders and so on and so forth. I'm not going to spend my time doing that here because I don't think that's going to prove anything. It's going to waste your time though. This is what I plan to show you, and maybe I will go back into this one in the future. One thing I'm going to tell you that there's like a much smarter way of working with columns, and therefore there are these like ways you could divide things up into 12 columns, and you can use already pre-written classes where you can use these columns. And when you work with them properly, you never type code like this because it's already pre-coded, and you'll see that example when you're working with a project. And it's also something you need to know about in the project and learn more about. And of course, there's a video explaining shortly how that works as well. With that said, I think I'm ready to step into the next part of this lecture, and thank you very much.